Welcome to Big Blend Radio's third Tuesday Go to Natchitoches show. Founded in 1714, Natchitoches is the original French colony and the oldest city in the wonderful state of Louisiana. And the city features a charming historic downtown that's right on Cane River Lake. It's beautiful. You got to go there. They have farmers markets and all kinds of fun events, car shows. Christmas is a big deal right there on the river front. And it's also home to the Cane River Creole National Historical Park, the Cane River National Heritage Area, the Melrose Plantation, also a National Historic Landmark, and it's also the final destination on the El Camino Real de los Tejas National Historic Trail. So go to natchitoches.com to learn more. And so let me just get back to the name. Natchitoches is Natchitoches. So it's Natchitoches, natchitoches.com. So when we're talking about Natchitoches, we're always excited to welcome our friends Arlene and Kelli over from the Natchitoches Convention and Visitor Bureau. How are you? Hey, y'all. How are you doing? What's it like in the fall weather in Natchitoches right now?
It's really pretty today. The high was in the 70s over the weekend and sunny. Nice. Had a north breeze blowing, so it felt really good this weekend. And today was a beautiful day. Blue skies and lots of sunshine.
Oh, sounds like a good time to get on the Cane River Queen and go for a nice little cruise down the river, Well, the lake, Cane River Lake. See, you only in Louisiana, right? That you get to have a lake and a river as one.
That's right.
Well, this is the thing though. So it used to be the Red River, right? That used to flow right there. And so that got jammed up by logs, as I recall, at one point. But like the history of Natchitoches being the oldest settlement, that's drawn a lot of people to Natchitoches over the years. I know we've been to a lot of the museums and also, going to some of the genealogical places. You can go like museums and libraries to learn more. But when we were there the last time, we learned that it's okay. We know Clementine Hunter is like America's folk artist, and she, was out in Melrose Plantation and she worked on the plantation. Was she a slave at that point? Or
no, she was never a slave.
She was free.
Yeah, because she was born around 1888, and of course, slavery had already been abolished. So but she did. She worked in the fields and in the house, and so picking cotton.
Okay, and then at that point, Melrose started becoming kind of a writers and artist hub. So this is what we're going to talk about today is, the literary legends of Natchitoches. I know you've got films, a lot of movies have been filmed out there, but when we think about all the writers, this is really cool. So Clementine, was at Melrose Plantation, but that was also a place where writers went to, a lot of just to kind of, who doesn't want to live there?
That's right. It's cool. Live, work, or play there. Yeah, Miss Cammie Henry had a writers and artists colony out there. So, in addition to running a plantation with her 7 children and all her help out there, she invited artists and writers to Melrose Plantation. So it was a very popular place.
So one of those I think you were talking about was Lyle Saxon.
Lyle Saxon. Yep. He was from New Orleans area, but he was a frequent guest of Miss Cammie Henry at Melrose, and he stayed in the Yucca House actually. And there's a lot of documentation of his time there, and he did a lot of writing while he was there.
Is there anything that we would recognize that he's written, you think?
Well, one of my favorites is the book Lafitte the Pirate, and Cecil B. DeMille actually took that book and turned it into a movie in the 1950s that starred Yul Brynner, and Charlton Heston played General Jackson.
See, so it's tying back to the 2 movies again. Here we are.
It's one of my favorite movies, only because my family has ties to Lafitte, Louisiana, where Jean Lafitte, so Lafitte the Pirate was probably one of my favorites. Gumbo Yaya, which was a popular book for Louisianians, Louisiana folklore, Fabulous New Orleans, and he had another one. It was short stories called The Friends of Joe Gilmore. And he had quite a few, and Children of Strangers. So he had quite a few little books that he wrote while he was there.
That's really neat, because when I think about how close you are also to Oxford, Mississippi, is a literary hub. So that it's a huge deal there to this day. They have writers conferences, and looking at some of the writers that come out of your area, I think, wow, or have lived there, maybe not even born there, but have lived there. I wonder if because I think of Oxford has a university, Oxford, Mississippi has a university, but you have Northwestern. I think that probably drew in some writers as well.
Right. Yeah. I know Miss Ada Jack Carver. She was a local from Natchitoches, and she was a writer as well. But of course, we've got the Robert Harling that came from Natchitoches. He wasn't born in Natchitoches. He was actually born in Alabama. His family moved here to Natchitoches, and famous playwrights. So, we've had quite a few writers from here and passed through here and wrote. I mean, Natchitoches is one of those places where artists and writers do like to come because it's peaceful, it's serene. It just kind of gives you, something to write about, or something to paint about, or it's just a really special place.
Well, I think it's those trees and the Spanish moss, and you've got the resurrection ferns. It's just
but it's also the people and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the food. Let's not leave out the food.
That's right.
And the Abita beer, and then you've got the brewery, you got the river, you got the kayaking, you got the meat pies,
Yeah.
you got a little bit of everything. You got
Can't have it all, right?
Yeah, and the history is so deep in Natchitoches. That's why I think, for people looking up their family history that connects back to Louisiana, you've got to, I would also say start in Natchitoches, because, being the first colony, first French colony, but I mean, you've got such a diversity of cultures over the years that the story, you could sit and write about Natchitoches and never get bored. There's, just whether it's short stories or writing nonfiction, there's so many stories there. But let's talk about Robert Harling Kelli, because of his writing, you've got an actual film trail now.
Definitely. He wrote, obviously, the screenplay for Still Magnolias to memorialize.
It's wine time, Kelly. You want a sip?
Some wine.
Yes. But to remember his sister. And so, it went, to Broadway, and then they, sold the screen rights and went to make the movie, and now we have the film Still Magnolias that people still come to visit Natchitoches to see the sights from Still Magnolias. But it all started with his writing and his screenplay, and and his storytelling of his sister's life.
Because it was a screenplay and it was an off-Broadway show, as well, before it became the actual movie. And so he actually was really involved in the movie part, and was even the minister. I read. I didn't realize
he
him.
Played a part in the movie. He was the minister. He was
at St. Augustine.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Wow. So when I didn't realize it was him who wrote like the first Wives Club movie, like all my favorite 80s movies, right?
Yeah. Soap Dish and First Wives Club. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and the Laws of Attraction.
Yes. Yep. And Evening Star, which was the follow-up from Terms of Endearment. Remember the Terms of Endearment movie with Shirley Maclaine?
Right.
And it was kind of a follow-up movie. He wrote that. So.
Well, Shirley Maclaine is one of my favorites, because she could always be the eccentric one, But she came out to Natchitoches, which I remember I think it was the first time we came to Natchitoches, and was one of the hotels that we were staying. I think it was the Hampton. I think it was. One of the ladies there was in the movie too.
Yes, Lori Kate. I know who you're talking about. Yes, yeah. Lori played. She's a local. And she played Dylan McDermott's mother. She was the mother of the groom. So we had local people, and the sheriff at the time, Norm Fletcher, was the father of the groom. So we had locals that were in the movie. Yeah,
that is so much fun. That is fun. But Kelly, this has also got into the part where it's not just Still Magnolias, which is a huge deal, and you've got a park, because this is the story is about a local lady, which is Robert Harling's sister, and he was in New York, comes home, to take care of his sister, and he's got a plantation too, right? He's got a huge home. It's on the way to Melrose Plantation. You can see it. You can see it.
It's on Cane River Lake.
There it is. It's beautiful. But now you have a whole film trail with all these other movies that came here.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, The Man in the Moon with Reese Witherspoon was actually her first film. The Horse Soldiers, John Wayne, and a few others. A Christmas film, The Year Without a Santa Claus is listed in there. We have a few smaller ones. Clementine Hunter's World, that documentary. You can see places where that was filmed as well.
Oh, wait, and Clementine
Nice.
Hunter has a cookbook too. So we're just, that's also writing.
Yep.
You can't just throw a recipe out there. You have to know how to write it.
This was in the 1950s, and she and Francois Mignon out at Melrose wrote this cookbook. And I actually have a copy of it. It's not in print anymore, but when I was the curator out there, I found a box of them in the attic, and the ladies told me to sell them in the gift shop. So I'm like, well, I got to have one of these. So I bought one, and it's kind of like, it's not anything that I would want to cook, but it's nice to have that cookbook.
What do you mean you don't want to? What's in there?
Why?
It's a lot of wild game, just,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
when you're
well,
out
that
hunt-
makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense back then.
Living off the land.
living off the land pretty much, yeah.
okay.
So-
Well, then listen,
Yes.
Arlene knows how to cook, though. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
When
but
you're opening a restaurant in your spare time.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Now I do
Yeah.
enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy eating more than I do cooking, so. but
Oh,
that's-
I think you're excellent, chef. I'm
Me
just
too.
saying.
yes.
Yeah, we need
Yes.
Arlene's cookbook next. That's what needs to happen next.
Oh, yeah.
So Carolyn
Come on,
Dorman,
Arlene.
yeah, right? Carolyn Dorman, we have to bring her up. I know we talked about Briarwood before, and Briarwood preserves a National Historic Place. She is incredible. And, I know that she's connected to making sure that Kisatchie National Forest, what it is now, was protected and preserved. What I didn't realize is she was the very first female in the United States Forest Service. I mean,
That's
across
great.
out of the very first one. But she was a teacher and a writer. And I was looking at the list of books because, her books, now we're talking nonfiction, Bird Talk, Southern Indian Boy, Natives Preferred, Flowers Native to the Deep South, Forest Trees
I
of
have that.
Louisiana, Wildflowers of
Mm.
Louisiana. I mean, it all spans from 1934 through to the 1941. Yeah,
I have a couple of those books. They're still in print and available for purchase, so.
really.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
So she did like the botanical stories and, documentation. So you've got the
Mhm.
science writer.
She did her own illustrations as well.
Yeah.
If
And
you ever
that is
looked
so
at some of the illustrations of the wildflowers and the Louisiana native plants, she was an excellent artist and illustrator. Yeah.
That's
I
so
love that
cool.
about going to the preserve where you could go to her house and see her
Mhm.
drawings and her art and, just the tools she used. And it's awesome. But then you've got that writer's cabin for writers.
Yeah. It's got your name on it, waiting for you to come visit.
Nancy, are you ready to go out in the woods and sleep in a cabin?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, so
I'd find some more bears.
what is it? That is for people are they like an artist in residence, or is it they're doing science?
Actually, you know what they use it for? Their members that are at the highest level, they allow them to stay there one night a year. For the people that are members of the Carolyn Dorman Preserve.
Wow.
So it's kind of a nice benefit.
Hmm.
Oh, nice.
But it's neat because you've got like what's the big daddy tree? I gotta watch how I say it. The grandpappy. I know.
The big daddy tree.
Who's the big daddy?
Grandpappy.
I knew I had to be
Close.
careful. The big grandpappy.
Okay.
Well, you got to go see the big grandpappy tree.
Mhm.
Oh, it's pretty.
It is very nice out there.
Yeah.
It's open in the fall,
beautiful.
right? Is it?
Yes.
Yes, now,
Okay.
actually.
Okay. And there's
And
normally
then
like. Go ahead.
In the spring is when all the irises are blooming, and it's
Oh,
like,
nice.
takes your breath away. It really does.
I bet.
Because the azaleas come out. I know we talked about this before, Kelly, but I know you like
Mhm.
to go tromping up in the forest too. So the azalea season, when is that? Spring, February, March, or?
Yeah, for the wild azaleas, it's actually a little bit sooner than the domestic azaleas. So the wild azaleas bloom, yeah, kind of in that
February, March.
February timeframe. The domestic azaleas bloom more. It's kind of that first sign of spring. So right at the 1st of March, usually.
Okay, cool. So everyone, then the azalea, you've got like an azalea trail if you go through the forest, right? You just go through and,
Exactly.
oh, beautiful. We'll have to do that one day. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there in the spring. We'll get there one time where it's not July.
Yeah.
That is our Natchitoches stamp. Every time we've been to Natchitoches, it's in the middle of July.
July.
That's our
Yes.
thing. Well, wait, we
It's
veered off
cool.
in August and stopped for meat pies. So that
That's
was,
right.
just a few days off, just a couple days off. But okay, so we've got Robert Harling, we've got Lyle Saxon, we've got Carolyn Dorman, and then Kate Chopin.
Chopin.
She was like, okay, so speak about women first. She was one of the first feminist writers of the South, even though she comes from Missouri. Well, Missouri could be the South too, right? Uh-oh.
Kate Chopin was way ahead of her time. And yeah, she was famous for, of course, The Awakening is probably her most popular, but she wrote several stories and several books. So she married and moved to Clutcheville, just south of here in Natchitoches Parish, and they still had the Kate Chopin house up until about 7 years ago when it burned. It
no.
burned to the ground. Yeah, it was so sad. But the Bayou Folk Museum was the name of her house, and it just had a whole lot of nice, things in there to reflect of her time when she was here in Louisiana. And so yep, Kate Chopin, she was something else. Her.
But she lived. Yeah, I mean, I started reading The Awakening, and I need to go back to it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she really just speaks her mind. I was like, I can't believe she just said that. Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. It's very cool.
Someone had to start it.
Well, when she wrote The Awakening, she referred, they went to Grand Isle, which is at the tip of the southern tip of Louisiana. And, that was a resort for the people in the 1800s from New Orleans. That's where they would go, because Grand Isle was like a resort back then. So they made a movie probably about 10 or 15 years ago. Called The Awakening. And I want to say that parts of it was filmed down there in Grand Isle. But as you know, Grand Isle got hit by a hurricane a couple of weeks ago. So it took a hard hit. But yeah, it's referencing when she's writing, going down to Grand Isle, Louisiana, because that's where all the people from New Orleans traveled, to the beaches and to the Gulf right there. Yeah.
But she lived in Natchitoches for a while.
She did. She lived in Natchitoches Parish. Her husband was from here. Oscar Chopin, and so they had a big house down in Clutcheville. So, yep.
So you would say that's part of Natchitoches Parish then?
Not in the city limits. It's in the southern tip of the Natchitoches Parish.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know if she was like downtown, and if that was like a different. So it's not
No,
far.
it's actually further south than Melrose, because Melrose is about 18 miles from the city of Natchitoches. So it's going south Melrose, and then Clutcheville is even further south than Melrose.
Oh, okay. So she didn't. Okay, so it was Robert Harling that went to Northwestern University.
Actually, Robert Harling graduated from Tulane University in New Orleans as a lawyer.
That's right. That's right.
And he decided he didn't want to be a lawyer. He wanted to go to New York. And after his sister died, he wrote, Still Magnolias, and he wrote it in 10 days, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And it was a way for him to overcome some of his grief. Obviously, writing about it, talking about it helped him, so
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Can you imagine going to school to be a lawyer at Tulane and then tell your parents?
But that is
wow.
odd, because there are so many lawyers that we know that are authors. I don't know what it is about.
It's organizational. It's organizational skills with creativity. I mean, lawyers are very creative.
A good one, yeah.
Yes, they're very creative. Just saying.
And accountants, we
You tell
need them
all
to
sides
be,
of the story.
That's right. That's
And
right.
they're organized.
Yeah, yeah.
we need creative accountants and
We have that. It's called the IRS.
no, that they're
Wow.
not as creative. No, no. But this is amazing. I think you need to have a literary tour because there's probably so many more writers of Natchitoches, and just think about the the university and then nonfiction. I bet you there's a lot more out
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
Julie Kane
Mhm.
is a professor. Julie Kane is a professor at Northwestern, and she's written many short stories and poetry and things like that as well. And our English department has a writing conference that they offer every year as well. So
Oh,
there is a lot of literary talent. There's a couple of children's book authors here in town.
Mhm.
So
There's
that's
current
cool.
things going
I can
on.
see that being a next step.
That's our
Yeah.
next product. There you go.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
The other thing too with this, you've got all these writers, and I know with Natchitoches, to me, it's like I know we've talked about this a little bit, Kelly, that if you're going to go on a business meeting or something, go to Natchitoches, make it more of a retreat. It's way more fun than being all like stuck in a
Mhm.
boxed room somewhere. You've got the lodging for it, but it's got this more friendly, feel good. Go have a
And it's
workshop
just
on the
beautiful.
riverfront. Put your boss out on a kayak near a gator. No, I'm kidding.
Alrighty.
But do you ever get like artist and writer retreats? Like you're saying about this one conference, I would think that your area would be such an ideal place for writer groups, author groups,
Yeah.
writers and authors, because I know they do these conferences all over. But artists to come out and do their big, events and things like that, because it's just pretty and it is a creative
Mhm.
place. Makes you
Yes.
want to do things.
Yeah, we've had some in the past. I know that we've actually had like a plain art group that have come and they
Oh.
painted all around town.
Oh,
We've
nice.
had more of the artist side of things, but yeah, we've had a few things. I know Melrose has hosted a couple of writers groups out there as well. So, but
Mm.
definitely a group. We're perfectly poised to
Mm.
accommodate writers groups and artist groups, especially in the smaller sizes. Lots of venues that can accommodate that, and lots of places to get inspiration as well.
Yeah. Mm,
I was
for
going to
sure.
ask, how was the folk artist event that you had just recently at
Very
Melrose?
well attended. The weather was beautiful.
Nice.
It was a very good weekend. It was.
Oh,
It was
good.
very busy in town too, because they had Taptober, which you would have loved, the beer and wine festival.
We would have,
Yeah.
hey, listen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
okay.
We
I
had
think
football game
fall.
going on at Northwestern, and we just
Oh.
had all kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, because the
Wow.
Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, didn't they have their event in the fall this year too? They had some
They had
induction
two this year, two induction ceremonies this year.
ceremony.
One, because they didn't get to hold it last year in 2020, so they caught up on that one, and then about 6 or 8 weeks later, they had the second induction.
Oh, I see. So they did a double doozy. Good for them.
Yeah.
Everybody
Catching
else just
up.
moves it on.
End of August. Yep.
I was
Yeah.
wondering what was going on. I was like, these all are partying so much. There's always a party going on in Natchitoches, but I love this. I love the writing, and because it is true. I think for those, I know a lot of people who will travel just to go to where their favorite author has been or where they wrote the book. Do
Mhm.
you think she wrote The Awakening while she was in Natchitoches, Kate Chopin? Do you think when she was living here that she wrote it then?
Which one?
The
Yeah,
Awakening.
The Awakening.
No, I don't think she wrote The Awakening while she was down here. I'm not sure where she wrote it, but I don't think it was here.
No, but she's written a lot. You're
She
right.
wrote Bayou, what's the name of it? Bayou Folk and A Night in Acadia. She wrote a lot of short stories, but she did write about this area a little bit. But the Bayou Folk, that's pretty much around about here, yeah. And then The Awakening, and then she had several other short stories. And they're all interesting,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to read the Bayou Folk. That sounds like fun. That's my style.
Yeah, it does.
That's my style for sure. So
Mhm.
everybody, Natchitoches.com is the website to go to. So NATCHITOCHES.com. Did I do that?
Yes.
Can I spell? Am I allowed to have wine yet? No, 'cause I did it
No.
right. I did it right. But Natchitoches.com, everyone. Also, I know we're airing this, here in fall season, and Natchitoches is gearing up for, was it 95 years of Christmas fun?
Yes.
Yeah, 95.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Wow.
awesome.
Well, you are the
That's
oldest, settlement, so you might as well have like, a really old Christmas celebration.
Mhm.
95 years.
So I
Wow.
was telling somebody the other day, it's 95 years that we have the light, the lights, and then it's 85 years we've been doing fireworks. So every year for 85 years, the big
Wow.
fireworks show. And then it's 75 years for Miss Merry Christmas and the Christmas Bell pageant. So
Wow.
like 75, 85, and 95.
You
Wow.
go.
Well, I feel really young now.
Yes.
Well, listen, you have a wonderful rest of the fall. I know we'll be chatting with you for November, every third Tuesday, everybody. So keep up with Natchitoches at Natchitoches.com and Big Blend Radio at BigBlendRadio.com. Thanks, y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Bye, y'all.